In the modern day, voting rights are a sensitive subject due to the many controversies that come with it. In this short video, we will cover voting rights in Missouri and on a national level.
What the country was like before the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. You had a situation in places like Selma, Alabama, where only 2% of African Americans were registered to vote.
In 1920, the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote, marking a major turning point. Decades later, the Voting Act of 1965 helped remove more barriers, protecting the rights of minority voters across the state.
The Declaration of Independence set the foundation for America's values. Some of these values include self-government and political representation. These ideas mean that people should have the power to choose their leaders and have their voices heard in government. But today, strict voter ID laws can threaten those very values. When some citizens face barriers to voting because they lack certain IDs or access, it limits self-government and weakens representation. Protecting voting rights means protecting the core promises of our democracy.
The Declaration of Independence promised that all people are created equal, but that promise hasn't always been fully realized. For hundreds of years, Americans have fought to make sure everyone has a fair chance to vote. From the civil rights movement of the 1960s to today's debates about voter ID laws and access to polling places, the struggle for equal voting rights continues. Denise Lieberman is a civil rights lawyer who fights voter suspension and makes voting fair and accessible for everyone.
Whatever political party you may be associated with, to me, there's something, a much broader and larger moral imperative about voting. It really is about how, as a society, we confer dignity on people.
Today, Missouri continues to debate voter ID laws, mail-in ballots, and accessibility. The fight for equal access to the ballot box remains part of Missouri's ongoing history, proving that the right to vote is never something to take for granted.
The ballot box is so essential that the vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised for breaking down injustice. Really, that ballot box is the pulsating heart of our democracy.
St. Louis could benefit from an at-home voting system like Oregon's, where every voter gets a ballot in the mail and can safely return it from home. Oregon's model boosts turnout and removes barriers, but St. Louis still has stricter rules that make voting harder for many communities. The League of Women Voters supports expanding mail-in ballots to make voting more accessible, secure, and fair to everyone.
In St. Louis, speaking up about voting rights can be harder because of stricter rules and fewer resources. But that's exactly why using your voice matters. When you learn the facts and share them at school, in your community, or online, you help people understand and care. One voice can inspire, but many voices can create real change. John Boniface is a constitutional attorney who co-founded Free Speech for People and protects democracy and voting rights.
I would say is to recognize that you have a voice, and to not feel like people can drown you out or tell you you're too young to have an opinion, and that you do have the ability to speak out and be heard, particularly when you join together with others.
Back in 1951, a 16-year-old girl named Barbara John stood up for what was right. She went to a black high school in Virginia that was run down and unfairly treated compared to the white school in town. Barbara decided to take action. She led her classmates in a protest to demand better schools. Her courage caught the attention of the NAACP, which stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The NAACP helped her case become part of the famous Brown v. Board of Education case that helped end school segregation. Even though Barbara was too young to vote, she showed that young people can make a difference and stand up for equal rights.
Even today, the fight for voting rights is far from over. New rules and barriers continue to shape who gets to cast a ballot. In many states, voter ID laws require strict forms of identification, and some citizens may lack the documents needed. Others face limited polling locations, long lines, or confusion over early or mail-in voting rules.
To protect voting rights, we need people to step up. Nationally, that means supporting groups fighting voter suppression, pushing Congress to strengthen the Voting Rights Act, and sharing real, reliable election information. And here in St. Louis, we need people helping neighbors get voter IDs, registering new voters, and serving as poll workers to keep elections fair. Protecting the vote isn't someone else's job. It starts with us.
Barbara Smith Warner helps make voting easier by expanding vote by mail and leading vote at home.
I think anything that makes it harder for people to vote, whether it is requiring voter ID, proving citizenship, repassing laws that already exist. That is it.
The most important takeaways through this documentary is that the right to vote is one of the most important rights we have as Americans, but that only matters if we actually use it. The Declaration of Independence promised equality and freedom, but those promises didn't automatically apply to everyone. People had to fight for generations through protests, marches, and court battles just to make their promise real.